Stop whatever you're doing. The US has just frozen visa processing for 75 countries. And if you or your family are from one of them, your case could be dead in the water starting today. In this video, I'll show you exactly who's blocked, whose interviews are canceled, and what you can still do before it's too late. If you're watching this, you've probably seen or heard something like this. The US has frozen visa processing for 75 countries. If that's even close to true for your situation, it can change everything for you, your family, or your plans. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what a US visa freeze like that actually means in real life, who it hits the hardest, who might be less affected, and what you should do step by step so you don't get blindsided. You're watching Immigration Updates Hub. Here we explain immigration and travel rules in clear, simple English, so you understand what's really happening and what you can do about it. Let's get straight into it. When you hear the US freezes visa processing for 75 countries, don't just think news headline. Think pause button on people's lives. In practice, a visa freeze usually means this. US embassies and consulates stop issuing some or all visas for citizens of those countries. Interviews can be canceled. New interview dates might not be available. New applications might be accepted on paper, but then just sit there. Or they might stop accepting new applications altogether for some categories. This kind of move normally comes from the US Department of State, because that's who runs embassies and consulates overseas. Sometimes it's coordinated with other agencies if they say there are security or policy reasons. It's important to understand these freezes are usually both country-specific and category-specific. That means they affect certain nationalities and specific types of visas. It's not always literally everything, but if you fall into the wrong country and the wrong category, it can feel like a total shutdown. Let's break down which kinds of visas are usually affected. First, temporary visas. These are called non-immigrant visas. They include tourist and business visitor visas, B1 and B2, student visas, F1 and M1, exchange visitor visas, J1, work visas like H1B, H2B, L1, O1, P visas, and others. In a broad freeze, citizens of the affected countries may not be able to get new visas issued in these categories, book new interviews for them, see any movement on applications that are already in administrative processing. Second, immigrant visas. This is the consular side of green card processing. We're talking about family-based immigrant visas for spouses, children, parents, and siblings. Employment-based immigrant visas. Diversity Visa Lottery, DV, immigrant visas. When consulates freeze immigrant visa processing for certain nationalities, they can stop scheduling new immigrant interviews, cancel interviews that were already scheduled, mark cases as postponed or on hold without a new date. That means people with approved petitions from USCIS who were finally at the consular stage may suddenly have no way to complete the process. Even in strict freezes, there are usually small exceptions. Things like certain diplomatic visas, some urgent humanitarian or medical cases, very narrow national interest cases. But those are rare, and they almost never cover ordinary families, workers, or students. So who is hit the hardest by a freeze on 75 countries? The first and biggest group is citizens of those 75 countries who are outside the US and trying to get visas at US consulates and embassies. If your plan depends on walking into a consulate with your passport and walking out with a visa, this hits you directly. The second group is people with upcoming consular interviews. If you already have an appointment scheduled, a freeze can mean your interview is suddenly canceled, or it disappears from the system, or you get a short email that says postponed until further notice. After waiting months or years for that date, that is devastating. The third group is Diversity Visa Lottery winners. The DV program has a strict yearly deadline. If consulates don't finish your case before the end of the fiscal year, you lose your chance permanently. A long freeze can easily wipe out a large number of DV cases. The fourth group is students and workers with hard start dates. If you're supposed to start university next semester on an F1 visa, or you have a job offer that starts in a few weeks on an H1B or L1, and your visa interview is canceled or never scheduled, you might miss the chance entirely. Your school might defer you. Your employer might not be able to wait. On the other side, some people are not directly hit in the same way. U.S. citizens and green card holders already inside the United States keep their status. A consular visa freeze does not cancel your citizenship or your lawful permanent resident card. Your own right to stay in the U.S. is not what's being frozen in that case. People inside the U.S. who are filing for adjustment of status, who have asylum cases, or who are just extending or changing status without leaving the country may still see their USCIS cases move forward under separate rules. A consular freeze abroad does not physically stop a USCIS officer from adjudicating a form that never leaves the U.S. system. Refugees, asylees, and TPS holders already in the U.S. are in their own categories. A visa freeze overseas does not automatically end their protection here, but it can strongly affect their ability to bring family members through consular processing or to travel and return. There are also gray areas that are trickier. If you have dual citizenship in one of the 75 countries and another country that's not on the list, you may sometimes be able to apply using the passport of the unaffected country at a consulate that accepts it. But your place of birth, past travel, and background can still trigger extra checks or restrictions. If you try to apply at a U.S. embassy in a third country, the freeze may follow your nationality instead of the embassy's location. So, moving where you apply does not always fix the situation. Let's talk about how this looks in real life. Imagine a U.S. citizen who married someone from one of the affected 75 countries. They filed an I-130, waited months or years, got an approval, went through the National Visa Center, and finally landed an interview date at the U.S. Embassy overseas. A freeze hits. Suddenly, that interview is canceled, or new dates simply stop being issued. That couple remains separated with no clear timeline. The paperwork is not the problem, the policy is. Or take an international student. They get accepted to a U.S. university. The school issues an I-20. The student pays fees, prepares documents, and books an F-1 visa interview. Then a freeze is announced for their country. No student interviews are available. The semester starts and ends. That seat stays empty. Or think of a company in the U.S. that hires a highly skilled worker from one of these countries. USCIS approves the H-1B petition. The final step is just a consular visa stamp in the worker's home country. If that consulate stops processing H-1B visas for that nationality, the worker sits abroad, the job sits unfilled, and both lose time and money. These are not just delays. In many cases, they are lost years, lost opportunities, and lost family moments that never come back. So what should you actually do if you think you might be affected? If you already have a scheduled visa interview, your first move is to confirm its status using official channels. Check your email, log into the appointment scheduling website. Visit the official website of the U.S. Embassy or consulate where your interview is booked. You're looking for any sign of cancellation, postponement, or suspension. Do not assume that no email means all clear if the embassy has a public notice on their site about stopping visa services for your nationality. If your interview is canceled or postponed, save that message. Take a screenshot. Note the date. Keep your case number. Keep everything together. This record can matter later if consular operations resume and they prioritize people whose interviews were canceled by the freeze. If your visa application is pending but you do not yet have an interview date, log into the official case tracking systems. For State Department cases, that is usually CEAC, take screenshots of your status with the date on your device visible. If the status changes to something like administrative processing with no timeline, document it. It will not magically force movement, but it gives you proof of how long your case has been stuck. If you are about to apply, stop and research before you spend more money. Check if your embassy is still allowing new DS-160 or DS-260 submissions for your nationality, and if they are still offering appointment slots in your category. If interview calendars are empty or blocked for months, understand that the risk of spending money and then getting nothing is now much higher. If you are inside the United States and your immigration issue is with USCIS, like an I-485 adjustment of status, an asylum case, or a non-immigrant status extension, you need to treat that as a separate track. A freeze overseas does not excuse you from maintaining lawful status inside the U.S. It does not give you a free pass to ignore USCIS notices. You must keep your address updated, read every letter, and obey deadlines. In many employment and family categories, USCIS approves your petition first, and then you still need a consular visa abroad to finish the process. In those cases, A freeze at consulates blocks that final step, even if USCIS does its part. You need to know which stage you're in. If your case is complicated, if you're already in removal proceedings, if you have criminal history, past deportations, or serious visa problems, this is not something you fix with YouTube comments or random Facebook advice. A freeze makes your situation more fragile, not less. If at all possible, try to at least have a consultation with a licensed immigration attorney in the US so you know your exact risks and options. Now let's talk about scams because they always show up in times like this. If the US government freezes visa processing for your nationality, there is no agent, no notario, no special connection who can legally switch your case back on as if nothing happened. Be very suspicious of anyone who says they can get you an appointment in a category that is officially frozen, or unfreeze your case for a fee, or change your information to hide your nationality. Those are red flags. How long could a freeze last? That's the hardest part. When these things are first announced, there is often no clear end date. Policymakers might link the freeze to vague goals like enhanced security review or updated screening processes. That gives them flexibility. It also gives you zero certainty. Sometimes freezes are lifted after a few months. Sometimes they drag on. Sometimes they are replaced by new restrictions that look similar. The only honest answer at the beginning is you don't know. And if you don't see an official end date written on a real US government site or in a published policy, you should treat any date you see on social media as a rumor. What does a freeze of this size say about the US immigration climate? It tells you that country-based screening and restrictions are normal now, not rare. The government is willing to accept big backlogs and serious human cost in the name of security or politics. Even when a freeze ends, the cases that were stopped don't disappear. They pile up in a queue and processing gets even slower for those nationalities. If you or your family are from one of the affected countries, your path to the US is now harder, slower, and more unpredictable than it used to be. That's the reality. You can't vote on US policy from abroad. You can't force consulates to change their rules. But you can make smarter choices because you understand how this works. You can control how informed you are. You can control how organized you are. You can control whether you move based on official information or on rumors. You can control whether you're ready to move quickly when a window opens again. So here's what I want you to take away. Check official US government sources regularly. For visa processing and consular news, that's travel.state.gov and the specific website of the US embassy or consulate you deal with. For USCIS cases, that's uscis.gov. Document your own situation. Keep copies of your petitions, receipts, emails, interview notices, and cancellation notices. Screenshot your online status with dates. If you ever need to show how long you've been waiting, that proof will matter. Make backup plans when you can. That might mean considering a later semester for study, a different job plan, or other legal paths for family reunification. Not everyone will have many options, but almost nobody finds their backup plan by accident. You find it by planning. Get real legal advice if your history is complicated or your case is urgent. A short paid consultation with someone who does this for a living is often cheaper than years of wrong decisions. And please do not let random posts on social media be your main source of truth. If you read something and you cannot find the same thing on a US government site or from a serious legal news source, treat it as unconfirmed no matter how scary or exciting it sounds. You've been listening to Immigration Updates Hub. If you want clear, realistic explanations of immigration and travel rules in simple English, subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, when policies like this change, expand, or end, you'll hear about it in a way that actually makes sense. If you or your family are from a country that might be affected by a visa freeze, tell me in the comments what kind of case you're dealing with: family, work, student, or visitor. Your real situations help guide what we cover next on this channel. If this explanation helped you understand what a US visa processing freeze really means and what you can do about it, share this video with someone who's worried or confused right now. Panic spreads fast. Accurate information needs help to spread. Stay informed, stay careful, stay as ready as you can for when doors open again. This is Immigration Updates Hub. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update. Stop whatever you're doing. The US has just frozen visa processing for 75 countries. And if you or your family are from one of them, your case could be dead in the water starting today. In this video, I'll show you exactly who's blocked, whose interviews are canceled, and what you can still do before it's too late.